Hola amigos, this is Level 12 and today we are back with our 7th installment of WW1 Hetalia edition. Today's episode is called Blockade and we will be discussing the English blockade on Germany, effects it had on Germany, and how America finally entered the war after 7 chapters. I'm sorry if this is a very vague episode. This chapter went by super quickly, so forgive me. So, we've discussed Germany and his navy before, but only in the wider span of the ocean. Meanwhile, in the sea that separates Britain from the rest of Europe, called the North Sea, there were still hostilities there until pretty much 1917. Because Germany and England raced to make the biggest and baddest ships they could, Britain did so to remain the highest navy power there was, and Germany did so because he wanted it to act as leverage in peace negotiations. This didn't really work out for the Germans, considering that both navies kind of took out each other's ships, I say regularly, but you know what I mean, in the North Sea. Also, Germany was really stupid with its code books, and all 3 of them ended up in the hands of the British. Australians found a code book for merchant shipping, the Russians found the Imperial Naval Code Book in the Baltic Sea, and a British trawler found the traffic book in a sunk destroyer. It's bonkers. By the way, the Germans had no idea the British had any of these books, so when their messages would get intercepted, they'd be like, that's a coinky-dink. It's great. These books were then brought to Room 40, where codebreakers worked and intercepted German transmissions over wireless connections. The British had these as well, which the Germans could intercept, but the British much more preferred to use flag signaling rather than radios. However, the problem with these codebreakers was that they withheld a lot of information from the captains of ships. More than once, if Room 40 had just told the captains that there weren't any subs or bombs in the area, then there would have been a lot more German ship casualties. Now we're going to talk about the Battle of the Jetland. It's known by a few different names, but this is the one I can pronounce, so it's the one we're going with. It started when a man named Scheer, the newest commander of the German High Seas Fleet, wanted to raid the Sunderland. Some of his plans got a little messed up due to bad weather, but that really didn't matter because Room 40 gave all the information to the commander of the British Grand Fleet, a man named Jellicoe, on May 28, 1916. On the night of May 30th, Jellicoe and his crew set out, yet poor communication between him and Room 40 caused them to believe the Germans were further back than they actually were, which meant they moved at a crawl. When the Germans were spotted, there was a race to head south between the Germans and British, where yet again the British communication messed them up. After misreading some flag signals, a battleship broke off from the rest of the British fleet. Not long after that, a battle cruiser called Indefatigable, I don't know, I'll put it on screen, was shot and sunk within 30 seconds. Many other British ships were hit and sunk in this high seas battle, and Jellicoe received even more misleading or frankly incorrect information to the point where he started doubting the information he was receiving. That's not great. For a while, the Germans would retreat only to turn back and fight, then retreat again before both sides sailed for their respective homes. Now, originally this was thought to be a German victory, for they had suffered less casualties and less ship losses, which the Germans did use as propaganda, by the way. But the ships needed desperate repair, and once they returned to port, they never left the ports again. Britain, while it had lost many ships, and ships needed repair, it still had plenty in reserves it could post out. In the end, Britain was still the greatest navy power. So, Germany, like Britain, had to import a lot of its food and raw goods, which Germany got from countries like Chile and I think maybe even America. To get to these countries, it would have to go past Britain. So, Britain instituted a blockade on things it considered contraband. Contraband was supposed to include things like munitions, ammo, and war-specific goods, but it did eventually extend to necessities like food. I can't believe they did that, but they did. Many countries didn't like these blockades, including America, but we'll get back to that. This blockade not only affected Germany, but also neutral countries such as Holland, Denmark, and Sweden that would try to sneak these contraband items to Germany via things like the black market. England really cracked down on these dealings and instituted strict laws against it and actively tried to stop this kind of smuggling. I think jail time was involved. Germany really did not like this and tried multiple ways to get around it. One of them was black market dealing, which the army even took part in. Another way was trying to use submarines for long-haul journeys. This feat was attempted and completed by a German sub called the Deutschland. The journey was horrendous, yet when it landed in America, the crew was not allowed to talk about how horrible it was. It did make it back to Germany as well with silver and some other metal, but there was never another German submission like that again. Internally, Germany tried to issue rations to control the food issue. Also, take into account the growing season of 1916 to 1917 were particularly bad years for harvest. One of the orders was to restrict the amount of food intake. Prior to World War I, the average German consumed over 2,000 calories, mostly from fats and proteins. Once rations were instituted, however, the diet was shrunk around 1,000 calories from inferior products like turnips compared to more starchy products like potatoes. People also believe that people in higher social classes were treated better than, say, farmers. However, for people in higher classes, they believed that farmers were fat, happy pigs because they're the ones growing the crops. In reality, the only people higher than others were those that could work the black market or, steal. This, coupled with the overall food shortages, made scientists make food substitutes known as Ersatzgoods. Like bread would be made out of potato peels and similar substitutions. However, the food tasted weird and fake because they knew how it was supposed to taste. It's like margarine and butter and stuff. This also led to shortages of other foods, such as if you were using potatoes to make bread, you suddenly run out of potatoes. Now you have to find a substitute for potatoes. It was a vicious cycle of fake foods. The final way Germany tried to combat these blockades and restrictions were by using U-boats, which were basically just German submarines. Any German vessel that could go underwater was considered a U-boat. So what they would do was fire at any enemy ship without warning. This was seen as barbaric behavior because in typical cruiser warfare, you have to show yourself and indicate you're going to attack and give the crew enough time to get off the ship. These subs didn't do that in an attempt to break the deadlock. Germany also tried to do a blockade on the neutral nations, much like England, but realized if it did that, then after the war, the neutrals would very much hate Germany. I would also like to take a moment to acknowledge the fact that while Germany was portrayed as the bad guy in many different countries, England also did some reprehensible things like quite literally being the bully of the seas. Not only that, but it would fly the flag of neutral countries like America before sinking German ships, only raising the Union Jack afterwards. Just a small complaint I have that England is seen forever as the savior. With all this going on, America was really on the edge of their seats. See, while France and Russia borrowed a lot from Britain to finance the war, Britain borrowed heavily from America. And not like a national bank either. Individual investors were loaning out to the wazoo to Britain. America's stocks soared during this time, banking on the hope that the Entente won, because if it lost, it might not see its money again. With all that being said, America originally didn't want to go to war at the outset. One reason being that America had a large German immigrant population and felt weird about fighting Germany. Also, America's recent Irish immigration did not want to fight alongside the British. Other factors include fighting with Mexico, like they were currently fighting with Mexico, and just simply reaping the high profits from, staying on the sidelines. All that changed, however, when the Lusitania was sunk. The Lusitania, I believe, left from the New York harbor and was going to Liverpool. However, not far from the Irish coast, a German U-boat torpedoed and sank the Lusitania, killing over 1,000 passengers, including 128 Americans. All this happened on May 7, 1915. Now, the Lusitania had been advertised as a passenger and merchant cruiser, so the outrage was immediate. Propaganda popped up everywhere about the sinking and how Americans needed to take up arms. And while the American people were ready to go to war, Wilson pumped the brakes on that and withheld for the time being. Something interesting to note, however, is the fact that while the Lusitania was shot once, there were 2 explosions on the ships. There are 2 theories as to why this happened. One theory is that the boiler exploded on impact, causing the rest of the ship to explode. The second theory, and the likelier one, is that while the ship carried passengers and goods, it also carried munitions, like bombs. So when the Lusitania was hit, the bombs exploded, making the damage and outcome even worse. The final straw for America, however, was the Zimmermann telegram. This telegram was sent by German officer Zimmermann to Mexico, who had just lost and still currently in minor conflict with America over lands such as Texas and Arizona. This telegram basically said that if Mexico declared war on America, Germany would help reclaim those lost lands. Now, Mexico was really in no condition to declare war on America. It had, quite literally, just finished a war with America, yet the implication was enough. When Room 40 received this message, they couldn't wait to tell America. And as expected, America was outraged. This was the straw that broke the camel's back, so to say. On April 4th, 1917, it declared war on Germany, and on April 7th, 1917, it declared war on Austria-Hungary. And that's it for this episode. Really hope you guys enjoyed. There are other factors that kept America out of World War I, one of them being the Tsarist regime in Russia, which was falling in 1917 and 1918, which is actually what our next episode is going to be about. It's going to be about Russia and the last Romanovs, and I'm so excited because I know a lot about that, and I really want to talk about it. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see y'all in the next episode. Anyways, thank you for watching. Like and subscribe for more random fandom things. Ciao, chicos.